right, so we've got a shortcode now that outputs a survey form on our website. Now we need to write some custom JavaScript so that we can eventually handle form submissions. To do this, we need to create a new JS file and also include it dynamically within our website when a page loads. So let's go to our code editor, and in our plugins directory, what we want to do is create some new folders and files. So first, let's create a new folder called JS for JavaScript. And then in there, we're going to create two new folders, one called public and one called private. Okay, so inside of our private directory, let's create a new file here, and we'll call it ssp.js. And let's do the same thing in our public folder. All right, so while we're at it, let's create another directory in our main plugin directory here. Let's call it CSS, and let's repeat the same steps. Now we're just going to include create two new files here, but these are going to be CSS files. So ssp.css in your private folder, and the same in your public folder. Okay, we can close CSS up for now. We're going to be working on the JS folder. So what we want to do is open up our public JS file here. So open that up, and we're going to write some code. So in WordPress has jQuery included, which is a JavaScript library included by default in jQuery when the page loads. So we can use jQuery to our advantage. jQuery is much easier to write than vanilla JavaScript. It's so much better. So we're going to start by checking to see that jQuery is loaded, and we do that by calling jQuery like this. And then inside the brackets, we call the document. So we're checking to see if jQuery is loaded in the document. And we're checking for the ready event. Then in here, we pass a function, and it looks something like this. So what this does is it checks to see if jQuery has loaded. If it has, if it's ready, then we run this function, which has nothing in it right now, and we pass in the $, which means that instead of writing jQuery now, we can use the $. In here. Okay, so I'm going to start by pasting some code in here. I'm going to review it with you. So after jQuery is loaded, then we can do something. So I'm running a function here called debug, and I'm passing a message into that. It says public JS script loaded, and then below that, I'm writing that function, that debug function. So actually, let's change this to SSP to keep up with our how we've been writing our functions already. So this function, SSP debug, it takes a message and it takes a data variable. So inside that, we do a JavaScript try statement where we run console.log, which writes something to the JavaScript console, and I'll show you what that looks like in a bit. We pass in our message. Then we check to see if the data value has been passed in, since we're not going to require it. So we do that by checking type of on the data not equal to undefined. So if the data is not equal to undefined, then we're going to write that as well in the JavaScript console using console.log. Now the reason why we do this in a try statement is because some older browsers don't support console.log, so it'll throw a JavaScript error and then the rest of your JavaScript won't work. So that's why we write this little function instead of just calling console.log directly. All right, so you can save that file. Now let's open up our private ssp.js file here. Okay, so this code is going to be virtually identical here. Again, we want to update these. Okay, the difference with this one is that the message has changed. So now it's going to say private JS script loaded. Okay, and so the difference between these two JavaScript files is one's going to get loaded in the WordPress admin, and one's only going to get loaded when the public website is being displayed. So they run in two different places. So you can save that file now. So now we need to include our JavaScript and CSS files when our websites load. All right, so to do that, let's go to our main PHP file, and let's navigate to the external scripts section, which is section 4. And we're going to hit return a couple times here, and we're going to put in some new functions. So the first function, 4.1, this function is going to load external files into our WordPress admin. So this is going to run for admin scripts only. And here we call a new function, a WordPress function called WP register script. And we pass in a handle here for that script, and then we pass in the direct path to that script. Next, the plugin's URL is a WordPress function that'll get us the direct path to our plugin, and then we can pass in where in our plugin we want to find what file. So that's this JS private ssp.js. And then after that, the next argument we pass in is an array that can include required scripts. So in this case, our JavaScript needs to have jQuery loaded. So we're going to tell WordPress, hey, include this script after you've included jQuery. I'm going to put in the next function here as well, 4.2. Now this one is similarly loading scripts, but this is going to be for loading public scripts. So here we're registering a script, but this one is our public JS script, and it also requires jQuery. And then we're also running another function here that's new, the WP register style function. And here we're calling a CSS file. So it takes similar arguments as well. And then after that, we enqueue that JS script and that CSS file, calling WordPress's built-in WP enqueue script and WP enqueue style. And then here we can just call the handle that we used when we registered those. So these 4 new WordPress functions that we just reviewed here, let's go into them a little bit further. So the first one, the WP register script. So WordPress says that register script is, it registers a script file in WordPress to be linked to a page later using the WP enqueue script function, and which safely handles the script dependencies. And you can read more about that here on WordPress's website. All right, next we have the WP register style, that one right here. WordPress says that register style is a safe way to register a CSS style file for later use within the WP enqueue style function. And you can read more about WP register style here on the WordPress Codex. Next, we have the WP enqueue style. This is a safe way to add or enqueue a style sheet file to the WordPress generated page. You can read more about enqueuing styles here. And then we have the enqueue script. And that similarly does what enqueue style does, and it enqueues the script instead of a style, instead of a CSS style. All right, so now we've got these 2 new functions that set up admin scripts and public scripts, but these functions won't run unless we call them, so we need to call them. So let's navigate to our hooks section, and below 1.3, hit return a couple times, and let's add a couple new hooks in here. So 1.4, this is going to load external scripts, and we're going to call two actions here in WordPress because we need to include admin scripts and public scripts. So the first hook we're going to call is the admin enqueue scripts. And you can read more about the admin enqueue scripts on this page right here. So when this fires in WordPress, we tell WordPress to run our new function SSP admin script, so it'll include it. Next, we're going to call another action using add action here. We're going to hook into WP in-queue scripts, and we're going to say run our function SSP public scripts. You can read more about admin in-queue scripts on this page over here. So what this is going to do is it's going to load our scripts in the admin area or the public part of our website respectively, depending on which event is being fired. So at this point, it's a good time to update our table of contents. So let's go do that now. So we just added in some new hooks, so we can put those here. And we added a couple new functions in the external script section. So let's put those in. All right, so make sure you save your file now. And let's do a little test. Let's go to WordPress now. And so here we are on our surveys page. If you're not there already, you can just navigate to that by going to Pages and clicking View on Surveys, which we created in the previous lesson. All right, so now what we want to do is see if our scripts are running properly. So I'm using the Google Chrome browser. So to view the JavaScript console, all I have to do here is go to View, Developer, and then click JavaScript console. Okay, so that should pop up this menu here down at the bottom. You can see there's a few tabs along the top. Yours might default to the Elements tab. If it does, make sure you click on the Consoles tab. So in here, you should see a message that says public JS script loaded. That way you know that our JavaScript has loaded successfully. So while that's still open, let's now click here and go to the WordPress dashboard. Now you should see a new message that says private JS script loaded. So great, our scripts are loading properly, one in the admin section and one in the public website section. All right, so we know our JavaScript files are running, but one thing that we didn't do is we didn't create any CSS. We created those files, but we didn't create any CSS. So let's go back to our code editor now and let's open up our public CSS file. So open CSS and then find public ssp.css. Let's open that up. Okay, so if we were to go to our surveys page now, let's do that. You can see that we've got these dots here next to each of our list items. Doesn't look that great. So let's create some simple CSS to remove that. So back here in our CSS file, let's just write some simple CSS. So we added a special class to our survey questions called SSP question. And then we can target the UL inside of that. And let's just set list style to none, and let's say margin left. We're gonna move the margin a little bit to 1.5, and you can save that file. So if we go back now to our survey and reload, there we go. We just adjusted the CSS a little bit there. So not only are our JavaScript files working, but now we know our CSS is working as well. So stay tuned for the next lecture. We're going to look at updating our JavaScript to start handling form submissions from our survey. Stay tuned.